The following program was recorded at ARC Advisory Group's annual World Industry Forum in Orlando, Florida. I'm pleased to welcome ARC Director of Strategic Services, Tracy Doyle.
Hi, Ralph Rio, Research Director at ARC Advisory Group, is here to talk to us today about enterprise asset management. Ralph is a member of ARC's ALM team and one of the foremost authorities in asset management. Ralph, what is enterprise asset management?
I'm glad you asked that, Tracy. It has to do with managing a maintenance department. Now, in some industries, we may think that that's a small group of people, but you go into the asset-intensive industries, and easily there are as many maintenance people as there are operators in the plant. You go to your average utility, power generation, all that stuff, all the equipment needs to run continuously, which means it needs to be maintained thoroughly so there's no downtime. Now, in terms of the management of maintenance, it's a management of the labor, materials, information. It gets involved in mobility and reporting and analytics. That's kind of functionality that maintenance management covers. And there's certain goals they're trying to achieve. The primary goal is, of course, making sure the asset is running so that the company can achieve revenue. The second thing, and we've done many surveys on this, the second thing that's most important and a reason for maintenance systems, enterprise asset management systems, is to control the costs. And that includes both the materials, the parts that they're using, and the labor, the people. The third thing that's very important is asset longevity, so that they don't have to replace the assets. And that conserves a lot of cash and, of course, has a big effect on the balance sheet. And the fourth thing that is important is safety, so that potentially any problems don't damage people.
Supply chain management is very important. Why is it important specifically within enterprise asset management?
Well, there are a huge variety of assets in an asset-intensive company. It can be pumps and valves. And take something like a pump. Let's say that the plant has 30 pumps that are similar in nature in terms of their pumping capacity and stuff like that. Well, those pumps may have been bought from different manufacturers, or maybe several of them were bought from the same manufacturer, but at different times. So each one of those pumps have different requirements for the spare parts. And it's easy to get into a huge variety of spare parts. A utility could easily have hundreds of thousands of different parts. They need to have an inventory so that if something fails, they can easily repair the equipment and get that very important metric about the high equipment uptime. So, and another part of it is, how do you make sure those parts are available so you don't have to order them? I mean, for example, in a utility, a transformer, could have a 13, 14-week lead time. You can't allow, if one of those fails, you can't allow customers to go without power for 13 weeks. You have to have that transformer available immediately to get that power available to the people. So you have this huge variety of parts. They need to be available quickly for repair, and those parts can permeate throughout the supply chain, making sure they're available. So it's a very complicated supply chain issue.
So inventory control is very important in asset management. What makes it unique?
Well, I'll just draw a little bit of a contrast first. And I'll take the example of, take automotive manufacturing. In there, let's say next week you're going to assemble 1,000 cars. And you know there's 4 wheels per car, so you're going to need 4,000 wheels. So it's kind of easy to forecast what material you're going to need and make sure it's available so that when the operator goes to take a wheel and put it on the car, the wheel is in fact available. So it's much easier to forecast your requirements and make sure the material's available in that scenario, in a manufacturing scenario. Now, with maintenance, though, there is some preventive maintenance that goes on that you can kind of anticipate what parts are going to be needed. But very often, there's unanticipated failures. And a large part of the requirements for materials are driven by these unforecastable, unexpected demand for parts. So it's very unique in that a lot of demand cannot be anticipated. And you have to have your supply chain in place and those parts in place so you can repair the equipment in a timely manner, despite the fact that the demand is very random in nature and not forecastable.
Excellent. Shifting gears a bit, fleet maintenance. Is that part of enterprise asset management?
Oh, yeah. Fleets are assets, whether they be trucks, whether they be cars or whatever, they're assets, and they need maintenance, so they are definitely part of the maintenance management application and scenario. But they do have some very unique requirements. I mean, as you know, the trucks and cars are very mobile as compared to a pump in a plant, so there are some unique requirements around that. It can be around location management and routing, fuel management, for example. So yes, fleet definitely is part of maintenance management, some unique requirements. And I'm also including the fleets that are part of the logistics and the supply chain. Maintenance management can very specifically apply to maintaining the fleet portion of the supply chain and be a critical part of the overall supply chain management systems that a distributor or a logistics provider would require.
Fascinating information. Thank you, Ralph.
You're welcome.
Ralph Rio, Research Director, ARC Advisory Group.